Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness. Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness is quite short. It's about just a little bit longer than The Great Gatsby, and it really does have more emotional impact and more philosophical thinking in it than does The Great Gatsby himself has. In The Great Gatsby, we go ahead and learn about friendship, comradeship, and lots of breaking relationships. But here in Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, we learn about the African world, the world outside their prehistoric times, stuck in the past, Africans. I just didn't summarize the book for you. I went ahead and told you a bunch of key points about the book, which literally means nothing by themselves. Which is why this review video comes in, so that I can go ahead and explain to you guys what Heart of Darkness really is. How this Heart of Darkness book really teaches us about the darkness inside everyone's hearts. To varying degrees, there is some darkness in our hearts. Those people go ahead and sometimes they fight over things such as water. People sometimes kill each other there, for little things such as chickens. Other people go ahead and fight each other because they see them as savages, and the other sees them as a ruthless god that needs to be taken down, even if it means destroying the entire African civilization. Yes, the white men must have seemed like gods towards these African black people with their pale skin and muskets, which must have seemed a lot like magic because, well, somehow they didn't even touch each other, but somehow they killed someone when they weren't even touching anyone there too. There was a hole inside their body, and all they did was this. This little one movement, and they were able to kill someone. Yeah, that was quite incredible towards these savages, as Joseph Conrad described them. Let's start off with some context first. Here is a very simplified map of Africa. I told you it's very simplified. Here we have a bunch of the other people. Here is a simplified map of Britain and Europe. Technically, Britain is in Europe. Here we go. Here's a simplified version of that map, and we go ahead and learn about everything inside this world. We learn that the Brits found out Africa, and as a result, they went ahead and tried to go down there so that they could conquer the whole thing. And once they were able to conquer the whole thing, the whole map looked something like this. Like this. It was a colorful patch of colors. Some of them were Belgians, some of them were French, and some of them were Germans, etc, and everyone was fighting for the biggest piece on the board. Obviously, that literally ended up in several wars, and I'm pretty sure you don't really want to know what happened towards all the African people. But unfortunately, this story itself goes ahead and tells us about the African people. As a result, we have to go ahead and talk about it. The Heart of Darkness itself really just tells us a little plot of going into the middle of Africa, retrieving some guy while being chased by Africans, and then realizing that the guy you're supposed to be looking for is literally turned himself into a white African. That makes no sense. And now you have to force him back on the ship and go away because, well, then the Africans will go ahead and we'll just leave you alone because they do not want to risk killing their own little god. Ideas on civilization are always a great idea, and Kurtz himself literally came up with all these childish ideas of how to get fame and fortune. He himself proposing that since we were white men, and these white men must have seemed like godlike towards the black Africans, we must be able to go ahead and control what they do, teaching them Christianity and literally taking them away out of their tribal ways and then civilizing them. As a result, they can go ahead and do lots of things, whatever they wanted to do, as long as we could civilize them, as long as they treated us like gods. Unfortunately, though, this is before Kurtz himself went into the fit of madness, and he himself eventually turned into a savage and literally became the god of the Africans. The Africans literally worship Kurtz like a god, and these ideas themselves within Heart of Darkness is what Joseph Conrad wants to teach us about his own little philosophical thinkings. He wants to teach us about how everything in our lives were sort of lies. Also, back then we didn't know that all humans descended from people who came from Africa who migrated to other countries such as Europe and European countries and Asian countries and Australian countries eventually. We went ahead and learned that Joseph Conrad had lots and lots of darkness within him too. No one had a lot. No one is completely light. As light grows brighter, the darkness grows darker. And the only people who are arguably most lightest within history, including religious history, is Jesus Christ and God. They are the only ones who literally don't have any tainting of darkness within them. Also, Jesus himself admitted that he could be tainted into darkness. In the end, though, Joseph Conrad went ahead and taught us everything about how to prevent the darkness and what we did to go ahead and turn into wild savages. Civilization kept all that wild savageness in check within our hearts. Our hearts had all the savageness in them, but our civilization, rules, law enforcement went ahead and kept us in check. Once to take all that law enforcement away and put us inside a wilderness, we start to go ahead and become bunkers, and we start to become savages. And we start to become savages. Yes, literally become savages. And because we're becoming savages, we go ahead and learn everything we can to try to become even more savage, to go into our wild instinct, to go against civilization, everything that we were taught of, and turn into a full-blown savage man. It might not even look African, but we will be able to go ahead and act like them too. We have Brits in America. We have a lot of people colonizing the Americans. Are they more savage than these people who colonized the Africans? The Americans, yeah, sure, at least they got their independence because at least they looked white. But the Africans themselves, they are not British subjects. They were considered inferior. Even the Americans, who were supposed to be I guess their brother-in-laws, saw them as savages as well too. Not until the Emancipation Proclamation, which made that kinda illegal. In the end, though, we had ideas on civilization. We have ideas on how African lives shouldn't work, and how people act with each other, what people are, and if these savages should be considered to be savages and inhumane, whether we are less inhumane than them, or whether we are better than them. I mean, we colonized their homes. Are we better than them, and are we justified to do that? In the end, though, there is not much else I can really do to answer any of those questions. What do I do instead? Well, not much. I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode, so I hope to see you guys soon, and until next time, Shana, peace. Bye-bye. Read Heart of Darkness and do not let your heart become completely tainted.